my name is Jack Lai. So this is my colleague. Okay, this is Fitri. So both of us will be your trainings for the Storyboard Pro.
Good morning, everyone. First topic that we have for today, okay, is gonna be about the Storyboard Pro interface. Once you have double click the icon, you will be taken to this welcome screen. For the other welcome screen, okay, this is for you to start creating a new project. So either if you're using Toon Harmony or Toon Storyboard Pro, you will be taken to a similar, I wouldn't say the same window, but actually it's a very similar window. First, you have your project name. Okay, so you have 4K UHD, 8K UHD. Now the standard nowadays is the first option, which is the HDTV 1080p24. So if the aspect ratio here does not have the options that you want, you can actually click the plus icon, and you actually have the capability to customize the resolution yourself. And I will be taken to the interface of Storyboard Pro, of course. So on the display, you will see a few sections or a few areas that by default would be loaded once you started your new project. This is where you start a new project, open a new project, save your project, and also some project management as well as importing media and exporting the media. All the grids and extras, it actually allows you to see certain things that uh, you would need in order for you to create like a proper graphic lah. So here is the camera. So actually the camera option allows you to edit the camera. You can actually align camera. You can copy camera from selected panel, align camera keyframe, for example. Just a few options that I'm just going to go through with you guys. Here is the drawing workspace. You will be able to see like for example, here you have the stage view, and then you have the thumbnails, okay, and you have the panel on the right, and then you have the tool on the left. Okay, now you don't see the thumbnail section anymore. You see the timeline view. Okay, so timeline view is a little bit similar towards any other editing software, because this allows you to actually see your scene in a much more in an overall view, where you can actually readjust the length of your scene. You can rearrange the scene and even add transitions. The third one is the overview workspace. Overview workspace is actually for you to see overall your overall thumbnails that you have produced. The next one is vertical workspace. Now for this one, you can actually draw while you can actually edit your captions. So here's the 3D workspace. So 3D workspace is a little bit more complicated. I don't mean like it's very hard, no, but it's much more how to say this, detailed, because you have the camera view. You have the camera view, you have the top view, you have the stage view as well. And then you have the layer toolbar. Okay, here you can actually use to create layers. There are two different types of layer. The first is what we call a vector layer. So if you create a new vector layer, okay, you can actually create vector images. So the Windows icon here, okay, you can also see you can also access these options on the plus icons on any of the section where you see the plus icon here. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the tools with everyone. Okay, so when you're using the brush tool, okay, you will have different options here that you can actually see. You can actually adjust the properties by clicking the arrow button on the right. So when you click that, okay, you will be taken to this the vector brush property. You will be taken to these options here. If I want to rotate the character, okay, I can just select everything, and I can mouse over to the border, to the bounding box, and see my cursor change. Okay, when it changes into an arrow with the arrowhead on both left and right direction, that is your cue to click and skew the object, okay, the drawing. Okay, the cutter tool you can actually access from the first tool here. Okay, the first tool here, once you click and hold, you will see three options: select by color, and cutter. So you just choose the cutter. It's very simple. What you need to do is, with the shape that you have already drawn, okay, you can actually just go ahead and draw it out. Okay, you can actually take it out. Okay, all right. For the pencil tool, okay, when we select, this is actually a overlapping line instead of overlapping shapes. Okay, so with the cutter tool, when you delete, so there's no merge line in Storyboard Pro, but you can actually adjust them so that they become the edges become rounded. So for the pen and dropper tool, you can use the pen tool to add colors to the drawing below. Use the dropper tool to pick colors from the left row. You can also select colors from the color view. For the text tool, let's zoom out a little bit and see the description. Use the text tool and reproduce the text example on the left. Use the options in the tool properties view to fine tune the font. Okay, so you can actually edit, choose any kind of font or typography that you want. The next tool that I want to introduce to everyone is the edit gradient or texture tool. In Storyboard Pro, texture and gradient, using the gradient tool, the objective that we're trying to achieve is the one on the left. So how we're going to do that is by going into the boxes or the shapes itself, right? The idea is that this shape contains the gradient. So we need to rotate the gradient a little bit. We need to adjust the gradient. Now the stamp tool is actually a tool where we can make our job fairly easier, I would say. What we can do is go to the stamp tool here. Okay, if I were to create a stroke, just like how I create a brush stroke. Okay, if I were to create a stroke, see how my butterfly have alternated. Okay, I've created an alternating line of butterfly.
So what we're going to carry on today is we're going to move on to a different workspace. What you can do is maybe you can open back the same project yesterday so that you can basically see more frames that you have. So when you switch into the timeline workspace over here, where you see a music sign and with a few lines there, so that is basically our timeline workspace. So what is the difference between the drawing workspace and the timeline workspace? Is basically we have the timeline at the bottom. We are able to basically select through on the timeline itself to basically preview. Okay, so it increase. So that is the first way how we can basically adjust the durations of our shots itself. I'm going to move these arrows to hit on the aims itself. So I will just move it slightly, let's say to a few frames later. Then I just hold shift. If you want it to go straight, if you want to go free, you can just go everywhere that you like. But if you want to go straight, I can hold shift. You notice that when I start moving it, you have this timing and spacing indicators appearing. Okay, if you hold command and shift, what happens is you can basically just the perspective of it. So now you can basically see this drawing itself in a 3D perspective. Okay, control and shift. For Mac, I think it's command and shift. So we can basically navigate these things for this workspace itself in a 3D view. Of course, if you move to the side, it's a flat. Okay, so again for the transitions, we only able to edit when there's a different shots. Okay, I believe if you play back, you see the same thing as well.
Okay.
Okay, we have the camera movement. Okay, so to identify scene shots and banners over here, the first thing that we have to identify is if it's the same banner, it will be same color display. So it depends on your, normally we will basically do a storyboard according to the script itself, especially when you look at the script, they will basically have exterior, where is this setting. It will always start with this. When it's changed to another setting, what happens is it will basically show us or tell us, okay, now it's changing to another environment or change to another set or setting and so on. We also would like to move the camera in a 3D workspace or 3D view. So in order to move the camera, you must select camera tools. Okay, to move layers, you can choose layer transform or the maintain size tools. But for you to move the camera, you have to select camera tools. Else, there's no way for you to basically activate, even here. Okay, as long as you are in the camera tools, you can select the camera. You will activate from the both sides. Okay, so we can basically move our camera left and right this way. So the next thing that we're going to cover today is basically on how to basically work on the 3D asset itself. So if you have done importing the 3D models into the Storyboard Pro, so to put it into the scene itself, you just need to drag and drop into your stage view on your workspace. So if you use 3D model, what happens is now you are basically having a 3D scene, 3D model itself, alright, which you can basically navigate around on the perspective itself. You can also move it, rotate it. Okay, the reason of doing this is so that when we do a storyboarding, if we are working on any like live action films, some we have 3D replacements, or we want to use 3D models so that we have consistent environment. So this is what we can do. Okay, it basically works on any other scene. So as long as you have a keyframe movement and so on, you're able to basically capture that individual frame itself as an. If you want to export as a new files, then you can always do that. Okay, so now you see it's captured a few more frames. If you have the captions that basically written, so it all appears as the same panel itself, because the panel means it's a continuity of movement.
Next, what I want to talk to you guys about is a little bit on the basic film language. Okay, so in this case, I want to talk to you guys a little bit about short or scene. Okay, so in Malaysia in general, we would use the live action terminology. It differs between storyboard and final animation, because in storyboard you only need to show the extreme movement. So in camera shots, there are different kind of camera angles. Okay, camera shots are also known as camera angles. It's a continuous block of unedited footage from a single point of view. If you plan on creating storyboards, you need to create different camera angles, camera shots that you can use in your scene. So depending on what is the purpose of your shot that you wanted to create, telling the story or unraveling the story, okay, revealing the story one by one, you actually would establish the location. Now the establishing shot is used to set up the location, okay, your character, as well as the time and the of course the environment, which is the location. So the long shot is usually to show a character moving from one point to another, because if you zoom in a little bit more, you will lose the information from the waist down. Okay, a medium shot is usually the full length view of a character. So when you see a character interacting with each other, usually you will see a medium shot. Okay, and then you have the close up. A close up is when a scene tightly frames a character or an object. And then extreme close up is an even deeper angle. Sometimes it will only focus, like for example, a body part. It creates like a magnifying effect towards object that usually appears smaller. Okay, so it depends on what kind of situation you are in at the moment as a storyboard artist. What do you want to do? Okay, usually establishing shot is very important for you to put at the beginning of your sequence. Okay, so before you start telling your story, you establish your audience first. Okay, usually characters or usually stories that does not have an establishing shot would appear very choppy. So if you have open your storyboard, then you will be taken to the default view, the default workspace here, the drawing workspace. Okay, so this is our area or the space where we can actually show the drawing, okay, that you have done. Okay, we're going to file and then we're going to go to export. Okay, in export you can actually choose any format that you want. In order for you to animate as animatics, you can straight away export it as a movie. Say for example, I wanted to animate this bird going from right to left as the bird is facing the left. Select the layer, okay, and set the initial keyframe by going to the layer transform selected. I'm going to move to the next position, okay, and I'm going to shift that bird a little bit to the left. Okay, with that I will have a basic movement of a bird. Move your camera, and at the same time you can zoom in and out. This rotation is actually the rotation of the z-axis. In 3D space, this icon, right? So in stage view you will be able to see that icon in 3D. Y is up and down, while red is for left and right, z-axis is front and back. This is the three axis that exist in 3D space. Besides that, we also did 3D camera movement. Okay, say for example, I change this to 3D. Okay, so you can actually rotate the camera. Okay, you can actually rotate the camera, and I can also drag the camera in a 3D space. In order for you to move the whole scene, okay, what you need to do is you need to select the whole scene, and then you can drag. So when you see the marker being marked, like for example you can see a full rounded edges on the top and the bottom of the green marker, you know that it's actually slotting in between the two shots. Okay, so when you release your mouse, you will notice that the scenes have changed. Okay, this file actually has contained the audio clips that has been arranged according to the dialogue. Now I have shown you how you can actually record your sound by going to the audio track. This is what we call the audio track, and you can right click and then you can record your sound. Another way for you to include sound is to import sound clips here. So in order for you to detect the audio is you can either listen to the audio one by one, or you can read the file, because the audio file has actually been labeled. Okay, so you can import the sound clip, and then you can actually choose where you want how to play the sound on the timeline. Okay, you make sure that this icon here is selected. Okay, you can see it on the top, in the almost in the middle. You can actually edit the wave. You can actually show the waveform. Okay, by right clicking and choose show waveform. Okay, so this actually helps you to visualize your audio a little bit. You know, you can mute the track if you feel like the whole audio is needs to be muted, so that you can actually focus on one particular audio layer. So you can actually mute all the layers. Okay, so for shots with multiple panels like this, I don't need to create a snapshot. Okay, snapshot is meant for keyframe animations when there are moving objects here. Okay, when you want to export to PDF, you go to File, select Export, and then you choose what kind of file that you want to export as. Okay, so in the destination path, you can actually choose where you want to save. So I'm going to save in day3. I'm going to save it as PDF output, and then you will see that there are other options here. You can choose whether you want to include all of your caption, or you can choose by clicking the 3 icon here. You can pick which caption that you want to include. Okay, so this is the video that has been set. Okay, let's see the scene or the animatics. Okay, this is what we call an animatics, is your storyboard in a video format, and you can see the continuity from there. Okay, so here in this particular video, you can see that we actually ask the software to print out the time. Okay, so here is the time where you can actually refer. Okay, and then this is what we call a burn-in timestamp. Okay, so it tells us like this is scene 4 and panel 1. Okay, and then you have the dialogue. Okay, the dialogue almost looks like a subtitle. So this is the final animatics here.
That's why they called the ship the Endurance. Terry, we take what we find and move on.